In 2015, during qualifying for the Bathurst 1000, defending champion Chaz Mostert clipped a wall in the Forest elbow section and suffered a fractured left femur and a fractured left wrist. 2 track marshals were injured in the incident, one treated at the Circuit Medical Center and another hospitalized with a chest injury. Mostert's season was over in a single instant. "Thank God we signed that contract a couple of months ago," were the first words he said to his team principal Tim Edwards in the medical center. Fellow driver Jamie Whincup reflected afterward, stating, "It's just a reminder that our sport is dangerous and at the end of the day, we are strapped into missiles." This was Mostert's second serious crash at the circuit in 3 years following an earlier incident at Reed Park during his 2013 Bathurst debut. The question this raises is straightforward: could a top NASCAR driver, accustomed to safer barriers and predictable ovals, navigate Mount Panorama at full intensity without suffering the same fate? Bathurst is a 6.2-kilometer public road carved into the side of a mountain with 174 meters of vertical elevation change between its highest and lowest points and gradients as steep as 1:6. Concrete walls sit a hand's width from the racing line, and the circuit is closed to racing only during event weekends. For the rest of the year, police patrol it enforcing a 60 km/h speed limit, and ordinary residents drive their family cars across the same tarmac that kills race drivers. On non-race days, you can legally drive both directions around the entire lap. NASCAR ovals, by contrast, are purpose-built facilities. A 1.5-mile tri-oval with progressive banking and safer barriers on every wall exists in a completely controlled environment. The cultural difference in risk philosophy could not be more pronounced. At Bathurst, the road was there before the race, and it will be there long after the last car crosses the finish line. At Daytona, you would be arrested for driving on the track without authorization. The machines these drivers operate amplify the divide even further. The NASCAR Next Gen car weighs approximately 3,200 pounds, produces up to 670 horsepower, and runs a sequential 5-speed gearbox equipped with automated rev matching. When a NASCAR driver downshifts, the electronics handle a portion of the process, keeping both hands on the wheel through traffic. The Supercars Gen 3 car is lighter at roughly 2,940 pounds, powered by a 5.0-liter V8 producing around 600 horsepower, and contains zero electronic assistance for downshifting. Drivers must execute a manual heel-ento technique, meaning the right foot simultaneously brakes while the heel blips the throttle to match engine speed during gear changes. On a 1:6 descent, a mistimed blip can lock the rear wheels and send the car directly into a concrete wall. Austin Cindric, the 2022 Daytona 500 winner, tested this contrast firsthand when he prepared for a Supercars appearance with Tickford Racing ahead of the Adelaide finale. Speaking about the Gen 3 Mustang compared to his NASCAR machine, he said, "It drives a lot better. Well, it's got more over-body downforce, even just by looking at the car, it's a lighter car, grippier tire, so all the things it does better." He also noted, "I've really had to talk myself into using the curb as much as I can with this car. Yeah, it has a bigger effect on the driver, but the car still stays gripped up, whereas if I hit some of these curbs in a cup car, I'd be in the blue tent." NASCAR racing culture treats the wall as a tool. The bump and run is a celebrated maneuver where drivers lean on a rival's bumper or scrub speed against the safer barrier as a deliberate strategy. This approach is baked into 500-lap, 40-car pack races where door-to-door contact at nearly 200 miles per hour is normal. Bathurst offers almost none of that margin. The cutting, a pair of steep left-hand corners, has historically trapped drivers who spin because the narrow gradient makes recovery nearly impossible without rolling backward into traffic. In 2005, Marcos Ambrose and Greg Murphy collided there during the Super Cheap Auto 1000 after both refused to yield, partially blocking the circuit. McPhillamy Park presents a different danger entirely. It is a fast, downhill, completely blind left-hander forced on drivers by a crest just before the turn-in point. Legendary driver Alan Moffat crashed there during practice for the 1986 James Hardy 1000, striking the wall head-on while sharing the car with rival Peter Brock. Griffin's Bend, a negatively cambered right-hander, punished David Besnard in 2011 when he suffered a fiery crash after exiting the pit lane with insufficient front brake pressure on new brakes. Corey's Corner is remembered for the 1980 Hardy Ferodo 1000 when Dick Johnson struck a large rock dislodged from the spectator area, destroying his car while running in the lead. NASCAR teaches controlled contact and drafting instinct. Bathurst teaches absolute precision and respect for terrain that punishes every fraction of imprecision. The crossover evidence between the two disciplines is limited but revealing. Shane van Gisbergen, a three-time Supercars champion, drove the number 91 Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing's Project 91 program and won the Grand Park 220 on the Chicago Street Course in July 2023, becoming the first driver to win in his NASCAR Cup Series debut since Johnny Rutherford achieved the feat 60 years earlier. Asked whether he believed victory was possible entering his debut, van Gisbergen said, "No, of course not, but you always dream of it. Thank you so much to the Trackhouse team and Enhance Health, Project 91. What an experience in the crowd out here. This was so cool. This is what you dream of." He also noted, "Wow, when we had that back strategy back to 18th, I started to worry a bit, but the racing was really good. Everyone was respectful. It was tough, but a lot of fun." Van Gisbergen has since spoken about how skills would transfer if NASCAR drivers attempted the reverse journey. Discussing Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, he said, "I would have loved to see how Kyle Busch went last year in the supercar. It would have been very difficult, but I'm sure if he took it seriously, he would have done really well. Hopefully that happens this year. There's talks actually Kyle Larson might go and do it. Yeah, I'd love to help them if they have any questions." According to reporting from journalist Bob Pockrass, Van Gisbergen has suggested any driver ranked in the top 10 of the Supercars Championship would be capable of achieving what he accomplished in his own NASCAR debut. Kyle Larson, the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion and a 31-time Cup race winner, confirmed his own interest directly, stating, "One that stands out to me, and hopefully I can put it together down the road, is I'd like to run a supercar, in particular in Adelaide. It's their finale. They have a sprint car track in the city as well, so I could do both." However, in June 2025, Larson withdrew from his planned Supercars debut with Premier Racing at the Adelaide Grand Final following a difficult attempt at completing the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day, in which he crashed in both races. Cindric's 2023 test with Tickford Racing at the Bend Motorsport Park showed promise but also the gap. He finished 23rd of 25 entries, 1 seconds behind teammate Cam Waters, despite being praised by five-time champion Mark Skaife, who noted, "For him to end up 23rd with a 20.7, they didn't put an extra set of tires on. He was a second away from the fastest guy, but without a set of tires. That is a really credible performance." Garth Tander, who had followed Cindric at a ride day at Sandown, confirmed the American's raw ability but highlighted the steep learning curve. "I knew straight away as soon as I followed him, within half an hour of driving this car, he was going to be good. He was certainly not going to disgrace himself. To finish 1.1 away after the first half an hour, could you imagine what the first 10 minutes of that session would have been like for Austin? Information overload. This is not about nationality or bravado. It is about specialized toolkits. NASCAR drivers are masters of high-speed packs, drafting, and using the cars around them across hundreds of laps on oval circuits. Supercars drivers at Bathurst are masters of individual car control, terrain negotiation, and mechanical sympathy under constant duress on a mountain that punishes every error. The ugly truth is not that Americans cannot handle Mount Panorama. It is that the skills required are fundamentally different. And the consequences for a skills mismatch at a circuit where 16 lives have been lost are severe. The concrete walls do not care about your trophy collection. The 1:6 gradient does not care about your championship count. Mount Panorama only asks one question: can you drive this road, in this car, with this precision, for 161 laps? The evidence from every crossover attempt suggests that the answer is far more complicated than anyone on either side of the Pacific wants to admit. If you appreciated this deep dive into the NASCAR versus Supercars debate, hit that like button right now because it genuinely helps the channel. And if you want more videos breaking down the history, technology, and rivalries of motorsport every single week, subscribe to NASCAR Overdrive and ring that notification bell. We will see you on the next lap.